That's my money. Why isn't somebody taking care of it? Where is this money going? Why is it lost? And who isn't doing their job at the bank? Is it still sitting in some guy's drawer?
We think of banks as safe places to put our money, right? Well, not so much. According to some customers who approached our Go Public team, 2 of Canada's big banks lost their money. And as our Go Public reporter Rosa Marcatelli explains, it seems they were in no hurry to find it.
It was a mess she had to clean up herself. It started when Ashley Robinson sold one of her cars in October. She gave Scotiabank $21,000 worth of certified checks from the buyer to pay off her car loan. Somewhere along the line, the bank lost her money.
So we have my second bank receipt.
While the checks were missing, the bank's loan department was calling Robinson, demanding she keep making payments for a car she no longer owned.
My reaction was anger. Like, how can this happen?
And what explanation did you get from the bank?
They don't know. They literally didn't give me any explanation other than it happens, it gets lost, it could have been paid out on someone else's loan, but no explanation.
And today, where's that money? Where's the check?
I don't know. They don't know.
Scotiabank says while mistakes are rare, human errors can happen, and it works with customers to make things right. In Robinson's case, she fixed the problem herself, convincing the person who bought the car to issue another certified check. Jesse Hardy had a similar experience with TD Canada Trust. It lost $17,000 of his money for almost a year. Stock certificates he tried to cash went missing.
To me, it just seems like they did not care at all. You know, they said, it was like, we're the bank, we're all holding all the cards here.
When the economy crashed in 2008, the federal government bailed out the banks. They took trillions of dollars in taxpayer money and invented money by the Fed, bought the toxic assets of the banks off the banks' books, and stopped them from going under. But if you thought that was bad, well, get ready for what could happen next time the economy crashes. A number of experts now think that the banks won't rely on the government to bail them out when the next crisis comes. Now these experts think that the big banks will save themselves by stealing straight from the checkings and savings accounts of everyday Americans.
In 1930, GDP fell by 8.5%. We call that a depression. In 2009, real GDP contracted by 2.5%. We call that a recession. This year, annualized GDP contracted by 33%. What would you call that?
I wouldn't call it good. I would call it a disaster. I would call it the worst economic times in my lifetime.
And you've been on the show for many times, and you've been talking about the coming crash that is the worst in your lifetime. Is this it, Jim? Is this the worst that you've been predicting?
Well, this certainly has been the worst in my lifetime. We've had a huge rally because governments everywhere have printed and spent staggering amounts of money. But David, it just means the next time it's going to be worse still. Unless you think we'll never have economic problems and market problems again, the next one's going to be worse because the debt. David, in 2008, we had a problem because of debt. Since then, the debt has skyrocketed everywhere in the world. So unless you think we're not ever going to have problems again, then the next one's going to be worse.
Something that's come up recently that has got me very concerned on the stock market's future. Okay, let me break this down. Warren Buffett, he's not known as a guy for timing the market, but the one indicator that he does look at to see where stocks stand is the market cap to total GDP. It's now been named the Buffett indicator.
I think the money that most people have, or at least what they think is money, isn't going to be money much longer. And so I'm not really sure how many Americans are going to have any wealth that they're looking to invest. I think most Americans are going to be struggling to survive, let alone trying to figure out where to invest money that has practically no value. The crisis that we are headed for now is really unprecedented in the world. Not that there haven't been countries that have been wiped out. I mean, we've seen hyperinflations, we've seen currencies destroyed, we've seen people impoverished. I mean, that's not new. This has been happening for a long time. What's really new is the scale. I mean, we're about to see a loss of wealth that's really unprecedented in the scale. How many people are going to lose money, or wealth rather, and how much they're going to lose? That's what's really unprecedented. And of course, it hasn't really happened in a nation as large as the United States. It hasn't happened with a nation that is issuing the world's reserve currency. So the bankruptcy of America, the impoverishment of America, a hyperinflation in America has profound implications far beyond the United States. So this is really going to be a global event, even though the bulk of the pain is going to be concentrated in America, and it's going to be experienced by Americans. And, you know, it's not COVID. I mean, COVID-19 is not the problem. I mean, it's one of a number of problems, but it's not why we're about to go through this massive economic collapse. But it is the monetary and fiscal policy response to COVID-19, right? The government's cure is what's going to kill the economy, not the disease. And in fact, it's not just the mistakes that the government has made since COVID. It's all the mistakes that were made before COVID, right? The government just didn't start making these mistakes. The Federal Reserve didn't start QE with COVID. It started it a long time ago. This 0% interest rate policy wasn't invented because of COVID. It predated COVID.